Life is hectic.
Some days are just a blur.
We're Jay and Laura LaFoon, and we help busy couples stay married for life.
Welcome to the Married for Life podcast.
April showers bring May flowers. I'll never forget the first time, the first spring that Laura lived here in Michigan. It was in April, and of course, she being from the South, that's when.
We get flowers in February.
Right, and the azaleas are blooming at Augusta, and the what's the tree you like? The magnolias are all beautiful at Augusta, which is in April. And she's like, "Where are all the flowers?" And I just looked at her. I said, "Have you not heard the phrase, April showers bring May flowers?" And she was like, "Well, yes, but I didn't think that was true." Well, it is
I want flowers to come a lot earlier than they come here in Michigan. So I have to start buying them at the grocery store and bringing them in a vase into my kitchen so that I can have those flowers earlier than May. I mean, we don't start planting until Memorial Day around here.
Yeah.
Planting the stuff outside. So that's just crazy for me. You'd think I'd be used to it, though, now.
You would think you'd be used to it.
Have we lived here 30 years? We've lived here a long time. I've been in Michigan longer than I was in the South.
Well, and you're better for it, too, aren't you?
I decline to answer that question. But hey, we've just gotten back from a mission trip to Peru. We're so excited. We sponsored children with an organization called Compassion International. And if you have never heard of Compassion International,
we'll put a link in the show notes.
But we got to visit one of our children that we have sponsored, and it's always just a blessing to see how happy children are in third world countries.
Well, it's humbling too, because we go. We visit these children in the projects, which are always in the slums, which are always filthy, dirty. You see pictures of poverty, and you think you understand it, but until you hear it, see it, and smell it, there truly is a distinct difference between seeing it on the TV and being right there in it. And it's humbling for us to know that our mere $38 a month literally changes that child's life forever. $38 a month, it gets him educated, it gets him medicated, it gets him fed, clothed, all these things we take for granted, and Compassion does it in the context of the local church, which to me is just the way it should be done. The local church taking care of the needs of these kids and helping them be released from poverty in Jesus' name. Like I said, if you've never heard of Compassion, or if you have and you haven't checked them out, there'll be a link in the show notes where you can go and take a look at some of these children that you could change their life, really in an instant. So we enjoyed Peru. It was a quick trip, but really enjoyed getting to see the work that Compassion does.
Yes, and today we're going to be talking about intimacy.
Woohoo!
But before we get there, we okay. Got the idea. We as we have said before, we travel all around the country doing our date night shows, and we always get questions from people or the greatest challenge in their marriage. And this is from one of our date night attendees who said, "We're having trouble with time commitment. Communication is our biggest problem, but we have set dates for the next 3 months," which I say, good for you. You got to set those dates. You got to put them in the calendar, because that will help your communication. I mean, one thing that Jay and I are really always encouraging couples is to see if you can set aside 10 to 15 minutes every day of uninterrupted conversation. That will help your communication, but also setting those dates once a month. That really is important. And so good for you that you have set those times and you're having trouble with time commitment, but you've gone ahead and put those dates out there on the calendar 3 months in advance. That will really benefit your marriage and strengthen the health of your marriage, I think, for sure.
Well, and it's like anything. If you calendar it, you're more likely going to do it. And I'll never forget, for one of my birthdays, the family got Laura and I tickets to go see the Eagles in concert. And you better believe that when I had those physical tickets in my hands, guess what? There was nothing going to stop us from going because you've got this investment. And I mean, it's a huge investment. So buy tickets to a ball game, buy tickets to a concert, and cement the fact that you're going on that date.
I will never forget, though, driving into the parking lot to park for that Eagles concert. And Jay's looking around.
I'm looking around going,
why are all these old people at this concert?
I'm still young, hip, and cool.
It was the funniest concert, though, because it was like, I mean, it's the Eagles, so the fans are all old.
And they got us tickets on the floor. Okay, so we got floor tickets to the Eagles, and
after every song, everybody would stand up and clap, and then sit back down.
There was no mosh pit.
That was fun. But today we are talking about intimacy. And when you say that word intimacy to a woman, she thinks of cuddling and talking and holding hands and doing things together. So what does a man think of when you say intimacy?
Sex.
Which is the problem with intimacy in marriage. We have two different expectations.
Well, no, they both define intimacy. It's just what does a woman think of first? What does a man think of first?
Exactly.
Now, that doesn't mean we can't think on behalf of each other.
And it doesn't matter what you think. Intimacy is important to every relationship.
Yes.
We've been created to be in relationship.
So intimacy outside of marriage is not necessary. Should not involve physical intercourse, but you still have to be intimate with your friends, with your family, in those other ways of getting close to them, because we are built for relationship. There's no question about it. Human beings were designed to be in relationship, whether it's a friendship relationship, whether it's a family relationship, but most importantly in the marriage relationship.
So just for kicks and giggles, I know you're gonna hear my computer go here in just a minute, but I thought, you know what? Why don't we look and see what intimacy is defined as?
Oh boy! On the
the
girl computer or the boy computer?
Dictionary, the girl computer. So let's see. It says close, familiar. I can't say that word. Familiarity. I have a hard time with some words, and this is what being familiar. Friendship, closeness, a private, cozy atmosphere. See, that's what women think of when they think of intimacy. They're thinking of private, cozy. And then the next one, an intimate act, especially sexual intercourse.
There you
That's
go.
what they mean. So we've got them all here. We've got all the parts of intimacy defined by Webster in the dictionary. So
And we have all the pieces, parts we need.
So we're all correct there in our thinking of what intimacy is. And it isn't something, though, that can be manufactured. It has to be real and authentic. And again, folks, if you are having difficulty being intimate in your marriage, not just physically, but having that closeness, that friendship with your spouse, then it's probably because you're not being real and authentic with each other. You're probably trying to manufacture. Maybe you're not, again, taking time to have conversation with each other. You're not taking time to spend time together. And when we quit doing those things in our marriage, things become stale, becomes routine, and we don't have that closeness anymore. We don't have that cozy feeling, and it makes it very difficult to be real and authentic with each other.
Well, and the challenge too is that men and women, let's just cut to the chase. The ultimate intimate act is
absolutely
husband and wife making love. The problem is we're on different ends of the spectrum. For a man, sexual intercourse is the beginning of intimacy. That's when he feels closest to his wife. That's why, ladies, after you've had sex with your husband, he'll say, "Oh, I love you so much." It's because he really does at that moment. However, sex for a woman is the culmination of intimacy. After he's been kind all day, after he's been gentle all day, after he's cuddled with me, that's when I want to be, sexually intimate. So we can look at it that we're on opposite ends of the spectrum, or we can look at it that we need each other. Gentlemen, she needs you to be kind, to be thoughtful, to be gentle, to be touching her in non-sexual ways. And ladies, he needs to have sex. Okay, now that's the case for about 80% of the
right.
population.
That's generally speaking.
About 80% of the population, that's the case. For the other 20%, she has a higher sex drive than he does. And so the roles are reversed there. And if that's you, you're not odd. You're just on a different end of the spectrum. But it is so important that we have this intimate life together that is not manufactured, but is born out of habits that can be a part of life.
So when we come back in the second half of the show today, we're going to talk about how to build intimacy into your marriage, hopefully in some very practical ways.
Hi, everyone. This is Paul Thomas, Director of Live Events here at Celebrate Ministries. Another giveaway this week on the podcast. This time we want to put into your hands a copy of Jay and Laura's book, The Spark. Here's what you got to do. Jay and Laura are talking about intimacy today, so email us at podcast@jayandlaura.com. That's podcast@jayandlaura.com, and let us know what prevents you from building intimacy with your spouse. Now, before you do this, listen to the entire podcast so that you can hear Jay and Laura's full description of what intimacy is. Then send us an email at podcast@jayandlaura.com. Let us know what prevents you from building intimacy with your spouse. We'll take all the emails, we'll pick a winner, and we'll send that winner a copy of The Spark. Mother's Day is coming up, and we have an event for the mother or daughter in your life. Memories on Mackinac takes place on June 23rd and 24th at Grand Hotel on Mackinac Island. This is an event for mothers and daughters of all ages to celebrate their unique relationship and bond. Laura LaFoon is going to welcome guest comedian Leanne Morgan to this year's event, which includes a porch reception, a 5-course dinner, and the opportunity to make memories that will last a lifetime. If you want more information and to purchase tickets, visit memoriesonmackinac.com. Finally, you heard Jay and Laura talk about their trip to Peru with Compassion. Jay and Laura and members of the Celebrate Ministry staff all sponsor children through Compassion, and it's a great way to bring hope to the life of a child as a couple in Jesus' name. You can learn more about this by visiting compassion.com/Jay and Laura. Now, let's get back to Jay and Laura LaFoon.
So today we're talking about intimacy in your marriage.
Hubba.
And not just that kind of intimacy. Our good friend Ken Davis says that intimacy is spelled Time.
Ah.
How do you like them apples?
He's not a very good speller. Yes, I also think he said that love is spelled Time. And for some people, that is the case. It happens to be the case for my wife. One of her love languages, and we're going to talk about this in a minute, is quality time. And so even though we spend 24 hours, 365 with each other all the time.
Work together, sleep together, exercise together, play together, everything we do
is together. Apparently that's what I prayed for. But I can't count work as quality time because it's work. And so, you know, it's frustrating sometimes because I think I'm spending time with her or we're out for dinner before a show. And no, that's not quality time.
That's not a date. That's just, we have to have dinner. We have to eat before we go work. So that's not a date.
Right.
He wants to count it as a date. Now, I did let you count it as a date for Valentine's this year.
Yes.
Because we didn't have to do a show that night. We got there a day early and went out for a Valentine dinner. So
yes, we did. That counted.
that was our last date that we had.
We're pathetic. No, we went on dates on vacation.
Yeah, that's true.
Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
Okay.
Come on.
But yes, spending time together. Again, we love Dr. Gary Chapman. We have had the privilege of working with him over the years. But before that, we read that book, Five Languages of Love. We read it very early in our marriage, and then we revisited it later because it does change. And
well, it's interesting because for Dr. Gary Chapman, he'll tell you that if he's wanting his wife to feel loved, he needs to pick up a vacuum or a dust cloth because her love language is acts of service. So when he serves her around the house, helping with chores, she says it makes her want to feel close to him.
And for me, when Jay says, hey, you want to go out for lunch or do you want to go shopping or golfing or whatever it is, we're not working, we're doing something together just for fun, then that is quality time for me. And for Jay, it's words of affirmation, which I'm really bad at because my spiritual gift is sarcasm. Yes. So I work really hard.
So the five love languages that every human speaks, one or two of these, are acts of service. That's you serving your spouse. Quality time, spending time with your spouse. Gifts. Some like to give and to get gifts. Words of affirmation, which is mine. And then physical touch. Now, gentlemen, don't jump to physical touch just because you like sex, okay? That was the conclusion I jumped to early in our marriage, and I was wrong. Now, if you're a huggy person, if you like to give out hugs to everybody that you meet, then you probably are a physical touch. But just because you like sex does not mean that you are a physical touch person. I thought I was physical touch, and words of affirmation, and really come to find out I'm more words of affirmation and
acts of service.
Acts of service.
And so if you're wondering, if you're listening here and you've never really looked at the 5 love languages and you're trying to figure out what is your love language, what is your spouse's love language, the easiest way to do that obviously would be to get the book and read it and take the test.
You can actually go online now and take a test.
But think about what is it that you do for your spouse that you're doing because you want to show them love. So here's an example. Jay would always clear the table at dinner, and he would want to do the dishes and stuff as a way to show me that he loved me. I'm not an acts of service person, so that didn't show me that actually you get in my way in the kitchen, get out of my kitchen. What I needed was for him to take me out to lunch. So he was trying to speak his love language to me to show me love. And so what is it that you're doing that you're trying to show your spouse that you love them? And it may not be speaking love to them because they have a totally different love language. And we had to work through that. But yes, you can go online now and take the test. I think it's 5 love languages.
Yeah, it's free.
Yeah. And you can take the test and find that out because it is so important to intimacy to be speaking the love language that your spouse needs to hear, not what you think they need to hear, but rather what they need to hear.
So when I say to Laura, hey, let's go golfing, that is speaking her love language. When she says to me, that was a good shot on the golf course, that's speaking my love language. So, golf is a really good one for us because we both enjoy that time together, but you need to find what works for you because building intimacy, it can fade so quickly. It can fade so quickly in marriage if you're not constantly working on building it and growing that intimacy in your marriage. Well, we appreciate you guys very much. We would love it if you would rank us and rate us on the different platforms, if you'd share us with your friends, and we can build this community together. We're Jay and Laura LaFoon, helping busy couples stay happily married for life.